We're delighted to welcome Scott Leishman from SDS, and Scott is going to take us through foundation and modern apprenticeships before handing over to our very own Heriot-Watt's Derek Thompson, who's going to take us through graduate apprenticeships. Now, before I hand over to Scott, I'll just cover off some quick housekeeping. So today's session is being recorded. We'd also really appreciate it if you could switch off your cameras and mute your mics during the presentations. Following the presentations, you'll also have the opportunity to ask questions. So you can either do that, ask a question verbally, or you can use the chat function on the call. So really, without any further ado, Scott, I shall hand over to you. Thank you.
Great, thanks, David. So for those that are on the call, thank you very much for joining. My name's Scott Leishman, and I work in the Employer Services team at SDS. So I'm one of 8 relationship accounting executives across the country. Ultimately, our role is working with larger companies, so it's levy-paying companies, basically to help them with talent attraction, to help them navigate the apprenticeship programs, identify skills gaps, and get the return on their apprenticeship levy. So I say on a day-to-day basis, I would be speaking to companies and pretty much talking through apprenticeship programs, which we'll do here. Today, it's myself and Derek, the Ant and Dec of work-based learning, if you like. This came about because West Lothian CIPD once invited SDS and Heriot-Watt along, and Derek and I went along to speak to HR specialists in West Lothian. They gave us an hour, and we're still talking to them 2 hours later. So we've worked on it, and we promise that we'll not keep you, especially at a 4 o'clock slot. Yeah, we'll talk through all 3. You want to go to the next slide, David? So the 3 apprenticeships, as we mentioned, foundation apprenticeship, modern, and graduate. Now, I appreciate I've seen who's on the call, so I know I'm preaching to converted here. So I apologise if I don't cover anything new. It's very much a high-level discussion on them. But I think if we cover it and skim over quite a lot of the detail, it'll give the option at the end to ask as many questions as you want. So as I say, I'll cover the FA and MA and pass on to Derek for the GA. So albeit very different in delivery, hopefully the discussion will show how each complement each other and work in tandem. So first slide, or next slide please, David. So the first in the family is the foundation apprenticeship. So foundation apprenticeship ultimately was designed to enhance work readiness in our young people by introducing them to the world of work in 5th and 6th year. So as well as offering sector and business experience, it will allow the expansion of what we would class in SDS as meta skills. So you look at less school pupils now doing part-time jobs, they lose out on those meta skills that we talk about, such as communication skills, initiative, being adaptive, these type of skills. And I always think back, I talk to employers, I think back to when I was doing a morning paper round in the cold mornings in Edinburgh, and more often than I would like to admit, I'd put the wrong newspaper in through a wrong door and find myself at 6:30 in the morning knocking on some stranger's door to ask for a newspaper back. It took negotiation skills, communication skills, diplomacy, all things that you're naturally learning in the workplace that isn't as easy to teach in schools. Next slide, please, David. So let's talk about apprenticeship, foundation apprenticeship. So what do the pupils do? Develop industry knowledge and experience by taking part in industry projects and placements virtually or in person. So as I'm sure you appreciate, and those in the call will know, foundation apprenticeships unfortunately look very different this year than they have in previous years, where they would be doing work placements in the workplace and getting a real feel for the workplace. But that has changed, so we're asking employers now to do it virtually or setting up projects, which actually has its benefits as well. The Edinburgh College, for instance, their creative and digital media would normally quite a few employers, but before the National Galleries have taken all the young people doing it, so they've got all 13 working on a project because it's virtually they can do that. I've recently been speaking to an accountancy firm in Edinburgh who are going to talk through with 10 pupils, right through from here's lots of scanned receipts, taken right through to finished accounts. That would only be an opportunity for one person previously. Glasgow Science Centre are taking on different frameworks and working them virtually. So there's pros and cons in that there's more option with companies, and companies can take on more, but they do lose some of that that they would gain. It's obviously been adaptive, and I'd imagine going forward we're likely to see more of a hybrid type model. And what do pupils get out of it? So it's a work-based learning qualification at SCQF level 6, the same level as a higher, but obviously worth pointing out that in terms of SCQF points, actually they're worth more than an A higher grade. Next slide, please, David. I'll talk about how it works. So it takes up to 2 years to complete, usually starts in S5. There is 1 year models. More often than not, it is a 2 year model. So in their 5th year, when they're selecting their subject choices, when they're checking between hires and national 5s, you can choose to do a foundation apprenticeship as a subject choice of the 12 frameworks, which I'll show soon. I say this is in your 5th year, and in your 5th year, you would work with a learning provider or college, looking at different aspects of that career you would choose. So again, if I use financial services as an example, if that was the FA, as part of the college, they're looking at different parts of obviously working in financial sector. But you obviously have companies come in, financial companies come in and do industry talks, talk about the options for career progression, careers in that company, etc. And then in their 6th year is when they would do the employment placement or the project, as we're doing this year. So these are the 12 frameworks available. It's alphabetically from accountancy right through to software development. The foundation apprenticeship is offered by all 32 local authorities in Scotland. I always like pointing out here that of all the 3 apprenticeships in the family, the FAs have the best gender equality figures. Even looking at scientific technologies, for the 4 years that the FA has been running, 51% of participants have been female, which for an industry is just fantastic. The FA allows, what an ideal world, I suppose, we're hoping that the young person goes into that industry and realises it is a career for them. But it also it's the opposite. It could decide that that's not the career for them, but they're still getting the qualification and the references, etc., on their work. But I suppose that risk is taken away of, if you think of maybe a female's not sure if a science career is for them. Well, here's a chance to see for themselves. I would like to think that they then realise that it was. Next slide, sorry, David. What employers have also offered in a wide range of careers, from social services to software development. Wide range of employers are on board, from public to private sector and small to large. So I can't emphasise enough that there is a wide range, and for every Scottish Water and Dell and Stan Life that's offering, there's smaller companies right down to family businesses, and it literally would make no difference to the young person and what they're gaining, and whether it was a large company or small company. The more companies we got on board, the better, the more variety for the young person. And what an ideal world, what we want is when the young person's in their 5th year and they're working with the training provider, that they're starting to choose the employers, or as employers give talks about the careers, they're starting to appreciate, well, actually, I could see myself working there. That's what I would like to do. We don't just want it getting to the 6th year and the young person told, you're going to there, you're going to there. The more companies involved, the more differentiation between the size of company and the different sectors, the more choice the young people will get. And ultimately, that's what we want out of it. So what are the benefits to the employer on the flip of that? So yeah, so they get early access to future talent. There's it depends on, different companies do it for different reasons. They'll offer an FA sometimes just as a social mobility side. So it offers young people, maybe not in their demographic, to get the opportunity in the premises, but some will use it as their talent pipeline. If you think of, I deal with several IT companies in Edinburgh who aren't as well known, and as young people leave school, talented young people looking for careers in IT, they naturally drift towards the Microsofts and the Tesco Banks and the RBSs in Edinburgh. Whereas if you've got an IT company and you can attract these young people into your business, it gives you the opportunity to let them see what the careers are like, let them see what it's like as a company, and hopefully then choose your industry. No direct to cost, you're not paying the wages. The young person travel costs would be paid as well. You grow your business with skills you need, as I say, attracting young people. And on the flip of that, as well as offering the young people, you develop employees as coaches and mentors. I've spoke to companies before who've said, for instance, oh, we couldn't offer an accountancy FA. Our accountancy team have been in place for 20 years and there's not going to be vacancies coming up. Well, that's fine. There's no obligation for taking this young person. You have to offer them a job at the end. Ultimately, you're giving them the equivalent of a hire. You're giving them sector experience. You're giving them the meta skills that I talked about. But on the flip of that, if you've got a team who've been in a role for 20 years, actually having a young person in the team is going to expand their own learning and development through coaching and mentoring. And I guarantee if a young person's in there in that team, they're going to teach them shortcuts and they'll learn something too. So that's the foundation apprenticeship. I think the only thing to add, I don't think I mentioned, it's timetabled in, and I think normally in Edinburgh it would be a Tuesday afternoon and a Thursday afternoon. So that's when the placement would take place. So currently we've got that timetabled out. When they're doing their virtual placement, it might be that they're spending that time with the company, or it might be that the Tuesday afternoon is for finishing the project, and then they would have mentoring calls with the employer on the Thursday. The modern apprenticeship, so the next in the apprenticeship family, it's the better known apprenticeship, or maybe not better known, but the more traditional. I think most people would normally link it to the construction industry or working in car mechanics, maybe hairdressing, but it's available to way more industries and roles than that. Unlike the foundation and the graduate, the modern apprenticeship can start at any time. It's not based on the academic year. Slide. And it's a real job with a real employer. So that the MA is employed and is earning a wage throughout their apprenticeship. Each year there are more than 28,000 modern apprenticeship starts in Scotland, with over 12,000 companies offering. And again, as I mentioned earlier, it makes no difference to the young person whether it's a large multinational company or a small to family, a small family business offering MAs. And it's the opportunity to earn while you learn. For the young person, as I said, the apprenticeship is paid a wage. The training cost to the employer is subsidised by SDS through contracted providers. So if the employer identifies a framework that they'd like to train their person in, SDS have got the list of training providers. They would link in with the training provider and generate a learning plan with the young person, and they're paid at milestones as the young person reaches certain learning outcomes. So yeah, as I say, I think a lot of people, if you were to ask them to list what a modern apprenticeship is, they're going to link it with construction and car mechanics. But as it says here, there's over 80 different types of apprenticeships. They're from, I could list so many, but say sign making, financial services, wind turbine operations. They'll vary in length and at SCQF level. So some of the modern apprenticeships, so like a business admin MA, you could complete in 6 to 9 months, whereas some of the engineering roles will take up to 4 years. And they're from SCQF level 5 right through to management roles at SCQF level 11. A wee tagline here. So yeah, a real job with a real employer, gaining skills and hands-on experience. And the young person's working towards a qualification that's valued by industry and gets their career moving. Why do young people take apprenticeships or take modern apprenticeships? So every year we'll survey completers. Obviously the question is always going to be, so why? Why did you start a modern apprenticeship? So some are listed here to improve their prospects, gain a qualification, build their confidence. It gives you a job with training and allows them to learn new important skills. Again, let's look at the flip for the employers. So it fills skills gaps. Like the Derek will discuss with the GA, the MA doesn't have to be for new staff, it can be existing staff as well. So when I'll speak to employers, we talk about or look at skills gaps, and it might be that an employer says they're struggling to fill a certain role, well, is there something within the business? Could it be a promotion opportunity? The MA doesn't always have to be somebody new. It could be somebody already within the business then looking to upskill. Helps improve productivity and increase staff retention. So employers will always benefit from a skilled and productive workforce. And it's always shown that if an employer investing in staff will get that return. Looking at survey results again. So again, looking at the information that comes back from our annual Modern Apprenticeship survey. 91% of staff are still in employment 6 months after completion of MA, and 96% of employers have said apprentices are better equipped for the role. I suppose the easy comparison, if you think you compare somebody doing, I keep saying financial, it's this easy one for me to go to, but if you go a financial MA, if somebody's at college learning about financial services, leave after 2 years and then come out to the world of work, they're not going to be as well equipped as somebody who's done an MA in financial services, who's literally been on the job, learning the job, and work-based learning as they continue. And as I say, the training costs are covered by SDS and the funded training provider. So I'll now pass you on. That was very much a whistle-stop tour. As I say, I'm aware that hopefully I'm preaching to converted here, and there is a base of knowledge. I think more importantly, if there's anything you're not sure about, we come back to that. But I'll pass on to Derek to talk about graduate apprenticeships.
Okay, thank you very much, Scott. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Derek Thompson. I'm one of the business relationship managers at Heriot-Watt University. And over the next 10 minutes or so, I'll going to continue the theme of the apprenticeship family, providing you an overview of graduate apprenticeships. Before I start, I'll provide a bit of background. Heriot-Watt were one of the first universities in Scotland to provide graduate apprenticeship programmes back in 2017, and our first cohort then had 26 apprentices. By 2019, we had 175 apprentices studying on our Edinburgh campus, and the number of programmes we offered grew from 3 in 2017 to our current number, which is 9. 2020 then provides us with, I suppose, not only our fourth cohort of apprentices, but also our first graduates through the GA route. Maybe just point out as well, due to the COVID situation, our deliveries moved from on-campus to online, and our September 2020 cohort now has a supplementary intake, which takes place in January 2021. So we'll get started by looking at what are graduate apprenticeships. I see David's back on track with the slides. So graduate apprenticeships.
Sorry about that.
That's all right, yeah, these things happen, technology. Essentially, it's an apprenticeship that leads to the student obtaining a degree. So that makes it quite different from the other apprenticeships that we've been talking about here. Graduate apprenticeships are still quite new in terms of how many employers seem to know about them. They've been around for about 3 years, and we still find at Heriot-Watt that we're talking to employers who don't really know about them. And therefore, for students who are looking to move from, say, school to the world of work, they may not, through their employer, encounter a conversation about graduate apprenticeships, unless, of course, they instigate it. So that would be quite common. So let's start, though. If you visit the SDS website, apprenticeships.scot, you'll see a couple of quotes. I've shared them here. A brand new way to work, learn and earn. So that kind of sums it up. A graduate apprenticeship is about getting a job, which means you're getting paid and getting a degree at the same time. So the traditional alternative of, or choice rather, the traditional choice for a school leaver, go to university or go to work, is now supplemented by a third choice, which is do both at the same time. And that's what the graduate apprenticeship is. The way we could think of this is to take the two parts of the name, graduate and apprenticeship. The graduate meaning this is a route to a degree, and apprenticeship meaning that the education is designed around work-based learning, where 80% of the learning assessment is achieved based on what the student is doing at work. So they're an employee and a student whilst they're at university. So the GA provides a route to the highest level of academic attainment, which can be achieved through an apprenticeship, which is an honours degree at SCQF level 10. The other way to look at it is it's not an apprenticeship for graduates, and that's quite often what I think employers misinterpret it as. if they don't have the opportunity to engage with us and learn more about it. So instead, it's an apprenticeship that develops students to become graduates. It's important for applicants to understand it's not about doing a part-time degree whilst also doing a full-time job. So we talk about the kind of 80-20 split, and some people think, oh, that means I only have to study 20% of the time. It's 100% learning. It's just that 80% of the learning is done at work, and that counts towards the degree. 20% of the learning is then done through the university route, and that might be assessed. There might be some exams. It's usually work-based learning and assessments and assignments that count towards the credits that are awarded for the degree. So that there's very few of the courses have exams, but there are some, and that really just depends on the nature of the program that they're doing, what the subject is. So it's about transferring the learning done at university to the workplace and getting the opportunity to do that right away.
Oh yes, there we go. It's fine now.
So unlike a 4-year undergraduate program, the difference is the GA provides that route through work experience and earning alongside the learning. So what employers need to do, or what they need to know rather, we sometimes talk about Scotland's best kept business secret, just for the reasons I say that employers are not often aware of it. Thankfully, that's becoming less as we engage with employers across Scotland about this. So they need to understand, the employer does, they need to understand it's a full-time job. The employee has employee status, the student has employee status with a salary. The job role has to be aligned with the degree programme that they're undertaking. So I have had inquiries from individuals saying, I'm working, I've got a job in retail and in Asda or somewhere like that. Can I do an engineering GA? And the answer, of course, is no, because there's no alignment between the employer and the studying that they're trying to do. So that's just one example of a real live inquiry that comes in. Graduate apprenticeship programs then are the tuition. So this is the way I like to try and explain it and separate the two terms. The apprenticeship, the graduate apprenticeship, is the job, but the apprenticeship program that students get access to through Heriot-Watt is the tuition that provides the route to the honours degree, and that's the part that's fully funded. So that's why it's attractive to employers, because if they're paying the apprenticeship levy in particular, it's a way of getting something back from the apprenticeship levy that they're paying. And so the tuition is free because the university draws down the funding from SDS once the student signs up. And the other aspect that's covered here is that it follows an approved apprenticeship framework, which means that it's work-based learning, which we've, I think, already covered. So I'm repeating myself. Next slide, David, thanks. So this is just some graphics here that really just demonstrate the benefits for the employees. There's no fees. So as a student, they're starting to earn, they're going to get paid, which means the flip side of that is that they don't pay tuition fees through the funding process. They get an honours degree, they get to develop their skills and fast track their career, and they have all the benefits of the undergraduate students, the full-time students that are on campus. In the world before lockdown, that would have included things like access to the Students' Union and all the kind of socialising that perhaps shouldn't be taking place now. Next slide, David. So this kind of sums up the benefits that employers tell us they're seeing. So this is a study that's been shared by Skills Development Scotland with us earlier this year. And their study showed those quite promising figures, as you can see for yourself. 100% of the employees that were surveyed would certainly take on a GA again in the future. And some very high numbers there in terms of those that say they have improved workforce sustainability, it fills the skills gaps, retention and loyalty is good, and they've gained new thinking and idea. And that last one in particular, I think, is interesting because at Heriot-Watt, we see the GA route to the degree as providing a kind of two-way street. The university gets to learn from what the employee brings back to university the following week. So if they're attending in their first week and subsequent weeks, they're taking stuff away back to the employer's workplace. They're then bringing back that application and knowledge of what works and what doesn't work back into the university and sharing it with our academic teams as well. And so they're constantly able to update things based on that new knowledge. Next slide, please, David. So this is about how to get access to the GA programs. The first part is who can become a GA. Essentially, the rules around this are anyone living and working in Scotland. There's no maximum age limit. The minimum age limit is just 16 because that's based on people leaving school. It's for employees, so they have to have a job. The entry requirements then are based on 4 level 6 qualifications. That's SCQF level 6. Typically, those are hires with school leavers, although, as you've just heard from Scott, a foundation apprenticeship is also a level 6 qualification. And we certainly recognise that at Heriot-Watt, and we're trying to encourage employers to have that awareness as well, that people with an FA in a relevant subject, that already covers one of their 4 level 6 qualifications. Also, for people who are already in the workforce and perhaps don't have those qualifications, but maybe have other qualifications, we can look at that. We can look at work experience. We can take all of that into account in lieu of formula qualifications. And really, every applicant is assessed on their own merits. Advanced entry is possible simply because we see the level of SCQF level going up every year. So level 7 for year 2, level 3 for year, level 8 for year 3, I think I was trying to say there, and so on. And in some cases, people who have maybe a modern apprenticeship and an HNC, and if they have the right level of qualification, like a level 7 qualification, they may be able to get advanced entry into year 2. So again, it's all about the individual's circumstances. How does somebody apply for a place? They do it through their employer. The employer puts forward the person, so they must be an employee. So someone leaving school needs to engage with an employer, and as part of that interview process, seek whether the employer will put them forward to the university for a GA place. And that's done through people like myself as the business relationship managers. We have a team at Heriot-Watt set up to do exactly that. So how does it work? What's covered on this slide is basically the partnership, and that includes mentoring and the intake. So for the first part, it's a 3-way partnership. The university, the employer and the apprentice work together to make this happen and to make this a successful process. That then leads to there being opportunities to be a mentor, both at the university, where there's a personal tutor assigned as a kind of pastoral mentor within the university's operation, and for the employer, where they're going to be back at work for 4 days a week. They really need someone to be a mentor there, so that there's someone there to be the go-to person should they need to think about how to connect some of their academic learning to the world of work, and maybe issues with time management and so on, because it's a challenge often to balance those kinds of things, the studies with the work pressures. And that then leads us to the semesters. So every September there's an intake. I've mentioned already this year there happens to be a January one. September for every year for 4 years. There's 3 semesters. So semesters 1 and 2, which is the next point, is where we talk about teaching time. That's 1 day a week. And semester 3 is a bit more flexible, where we have the greater focus is on the work-based project. So we can think of it this way: semesters 1 and 2 go kind of hand in hand with the undergraduate program semesters in terms of the timings. So semester 1, September to December typically, and then after Christmas in January up until about Easter, we have semester 2. Semester 3 then, after Easter time, and this includes during the summer, is typically where undergraduates go off on their summer break. But the GAs are employees, and so they're at work and they're expected to take on work-based projects and contribute to their learning that way. And that's all agreed in advance of semester 3 coming up. In addition to that 1 day a week that we need to consider as ring fence for their studies, we ask employers to also allow up to 4 hours a week, which allows the individual to be supported through their learning and help them study and transfer that learning, so that it's not a 1 day a week experience. It's a continuous drip feed, if you like, of education, rather than it being that's your uni day, and then when you come back to work, we forget about uni. It's not like that. It's a continuous process. The rest of what's here is just talking about the teaching time. So that used to typically be what we'd call our on-campus courses, blended learning materials, which are now responsive learning as well, which is about saying that we're going to move as the restrictions ease and as they increase, I suppose, we're able to review how we do that blended learning approach. At the moment, we are restricted and therefore everything's online, but we still ask employers to ring fence that teaching time. The assessment then throughout the programme is typically two types. The two types of courses, so there's work-based learning for work-based programmes, and there's the typical tuition for subjects like, I don't know, maths and economics, for example, where there would be specific courses. So that's essentially what that slide covers. This slide is just to show the support for the apprentice and how it's important to have the apprentice at the heart of everything we do. So everything in blue on that slide really shows the kind of support that's available from the university. So all the campus-based support that traditional student, undergraduate student, full-time attending would have available would also be available, whether that's through online access or whether it's physical. The employer liaison person, which is the business relationship manager, BRM, which is someone like me and my colleagues, and we liaise with the employer to ensure that they can navigate the GA application process. We help them get access to the places, we help them to get access to the funding. Then there's the academic elements of Heriot-Watt, there's the personal tutor, and there's the programme director. And those two combine to provide the academic support at Heriot-Watt. And finally, the most important part of this programme in terms of supporting the workplace is, of course, the workplace mentor. And we typically promote a three-way partnership where there are meetings once every quarter between the workplace mentor, the personal tutor, and the apprentice to provide a kind of triangular support mechanism for the apprentice. We can review what's going well through those meetings, and we can devise a plan for the coming months where we know what courses are going to be delivered, and we can talk to the employer about how they align with what's going on at work. Thanks, David. This slide just shows the range of degree programmes that are available through Heriot-Watt. There are, I think, 12 or 13 frameworks available from SDS for graduate apprenticeships. At Heriot-Watt, we're offering 9 of them. There's 2 streams of business management. One is specific to financial services, and I'll talk a little bit later about how we're delivering that in partnership with Borders College, because I know there's a significant number of people on the call from the Borders area. Then there's the engineering programmes, and in particular in construction, we've got civil engineering and construction and built environment. That particular one is more about quantity surveying, although it's called construction and built environment. It mirrors the undergraduate programme for quantity surveying. And then we have data science, which is proving to be more and more popular as employers embrace everything digital going forward. The next 2 are both engineering in terms of manufacturing, design and manufacture, both electronic and mechanical, and then a separate one which is popular with manufacturing production lines where there's instrumentation, measurement and control. And then the last 2 on the slide are IT management for business and software development. So those are both in the sort of IT area of businesses. You'll see there are differences in terms of the qualifications. So some of these are at master's level and others are at bachelor's level. and the type of degree really depends on the subject, but they're all at honours degree level, which is SCQF level 10. Thank you. So this slide just shows the partnership with Borders College and how we're delivering as a unique way of delivering this in a 2+2 format, if you like, where the first 2 years we have the SCQF level 7 and level 8 programs delivered by Borders College. Year 3 and year 4 will be at Heriot-Watt, where that takes the student to SCQF level 9 and level 10. So that's kind of how the SCQF levels build up. And what that means is that we're able to provide a more local, and this is obviously based on when people were attending, physically attending on campus, but nevertheless, there's still that relationship there, and there's still that opportunity for people to have a more local approach in the Borders with Borders College for the first 2 years. And then following that, they would transfer over to Heriot-Watt. The whole programme is governed by Heriot-Watt. It's our degree programme, but we have the first 2 years available through that partnership with Borders College. Thank you. So one of the reasons we would hope you would want to use Heriot-Watt University is our track record. We're consistently in the top rankings, but we have a long successful history of delivering work-based learning going back almost 200 years. Next year we'll see our 200 years anniversary. And we are one of the largest providers of GA programs in Scotland and have been since 2017, one of the first and one of the largest. Some of the things we add in terms of unique to Heriot-Watt, we provide the Maths Summer School. We provide a mentor induction and some mentor skills training for work-based mentors. We provide the kind of webinars that we're like the ones we're on now. And we also are able to offer discounted education to other things like online MBAs and so on. So there's a few things. That's just a taster, really. So to summarise then, the GA programme is designed to support the sectors that have a need for highly skilled jobs. That's why the frameworks are configured the way they are, and there's not as many graduate apprenticeships currently as there are, let's say, modern apprenticeships, where there are over 80. Graduate apprenticeships are very much tailored to those skills gaps. They're fully funded, the tuition part is, and they're for new employees or existing employees. So the access is variable depending upon the individual's circumstances. And the summary on the split is 80% learning at work and 20% at the university. I think we have a slide just to demonstrate some of the employers we're currently engaged with. There are more than that, actually. That needs now to be updated, but we're currently engaging with new ones all the time. So you'll recognise some fairly major well-known names there, which can be encouraging for students to know who to go to know who already knows about graduate apprenticeships. So that's all I wanted to cover today. Quite happy to take questions now. And my email address and Scott's email address are on the screen there for you to contact us if you want to do so. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks, Derek. Thanks, Scott, as well. Yeah, so folks, so really we have now an opportunity to either ask Scott some questions about foundation or modern apprenticeships, or Derek specifically on the graduate apprenticeships. Now we've got quite a few in the call, so I'm sure somebody's bound to have a question. And apologies for the slight mishap with the slides. That was a slight case of fingers and thumbs, but I'm sure nobody noticed.
I never noticed.
Thanks.
Hi, David. It's Sarah.
Hi, Sarah.
Hiya. Just to say, just to kind of recap on what you guys are saying, that in the Borders there actually been 14 graduate apprentices in the last year, which is a huge uptake, you know, considering there was very few before. So I know that it's great to have teachers and careers advisors from all over on this call, but it'd be great to get more information possibly out to parents, because one of the notes that Linda's put is that it is confusing with parents because they don't see it as sometimes a worthwhile route. So maybe if we've got something that we can actually promote out to parents, it'd be even better.
Yeah, Sarah, I've actually got a kind of leaflet that was put together with students in mind. So I can get that circulated.
That'd be great, thanks.
Yeah, no problem.
I think just following up from what Sarah said there just now, I was speaking to a parent, this is Colin Henderson down in the border, and the parent was saying he hadn't realised what the financial implications were for him as well as a parent, putting someone through university compared to the graduate apprenticeship. So there is I mean, while I wouldn't say it's the main thing, it's quite an incentive as well. If you can get a graduate apprenticeship, your bank account's a lot better off at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. And the parents as well, because you can imagine keeping a student at home while they're studying and have student fees. It can be attractive for a parent too, yeah. I think that's what you meant.
Could I ask a question about the graduate apprenticeships, please? This is Ross Ryrie, Careers Advisor in the Borders. The award that they receive is equivalent of an honours degree, is that correct?
Yeah, so the award they receive is entirely equivalent to any student who's studying full-time on campus. So there's no difference. The difference and the way to understand it is the route to obtaining that degree qualification. So, you know, an undergraduate program is full-time on campus. A graduate apprenticeship program is a work-based route to the same degree.
So my question really is, if that person wanted to do something further with their degree, like further study, sometimes it's, you know, they will look for a 2-1 or some sort of categorization of the degree award. Is that possible within a graduate apprenticeship?
Do you mean in respect, could they go on and do a master's or something? Is that what you mean?
Going on to postgraduate study, yes.
Yeah, so I mean, they'd be eligible for that in the same way an undergraduate would. There wouldn't be any difference. But currently, there's no master's study available through an apprenticeship route. So they probably have to go to uni full-time or whatever configuration is available at the time. Does that make sense?
Yes, and sometimes they specify an upper second award. So is that doable with a graduate apprenticeship award?
As far as I'm aware, the awards and in terms of first, second, etc., are the same for a graduate apprenticeship degree. So there's no difference between what you would expect an undergraduate to achieve full-time on campus.
So the person would be told that they'd achieved a first or a 2-1 or a 2-2 or whatever it may be?
Yeah, as far as I'm aware, that's exactly how it works, yes. Okay, I can check if you need further confidence in that.
No, that's lovely. Thanks very much.
That is also my understanding, Derek. And
oh, thank you, Peter. I didn't know I had my colleague on the phone, on the call, rather. Yeah.
Yes, you have. Just unmuted briefly. Okay.
Thanks.
It's Jeff Bayer here, Careers Advisor in the Borders. Noticing that the graduate apprenticeship, they spend 80% is, as I understand it, work-based. Does that mean that compared to other same subject undergraduate level, that would it mean that they would be do less exams each term, that they would be more assessed on what they're achieving in the workplace scenario?
Yeah, well, on the balance of the 80-20 split, that's absolutely correct, in the sense that we can think of an apprenticeship as more like a vocational qualification. So what they're doing at work has to be configured in a certain way to allow them to gain the credits for the work-based learning programs that they're assessed on. But that assessment is done typically, it depends on the subject, but if it were something, for example, in construction or civil engineering, or maybe even other forms of engineering, the candidate would typically submit some portfolio of evidence that they've put together in the workplace, and that would then be assessed as meeting the criteria for that work-based learning program. So in terms of where there might be exams is when you encounter subjects that are, if you like, campus taught subjects such as maths, economics, something like that. These are the typical types of programs that may have exams in them just because it's difficult to assess them other ways. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
but there's very few exams where the programme can be configured that way for the simple reason that it's more about an apprenticeship.
Thank you.
Thanks, Derek. Mr. Fagan, have you got a hand up? Ask a question.
I do, sir. Thanks for taking my question. It's really to come in on what Sarah has said. I'm coming to you from People's High School, where we have a very large cohort of our young people going on to further higher education. It's 75%. And we've been chipping away rather unsuccessfully at trying to signpost for our parents alternative pathways. And the apprenticeships would be very, very appropriate for many of our young people. But there's a kind of a fixed mindset that we need to try and overcome. At the moment, there's quite a slick machine to help people see the attractions of university and of the traditional route. Is there anything you can share? Is there anything which perhaps is in the pipeline about how we can kind of change that dynamic? Are there, for instance, products in place? Is there ways in which we can put out media to parents so that they can better understand the attractions of the apprenticeship route?
Well, I guess one of the things that the most obvious things to me to say here is that the SDS website, apprenticeships.scot, is probably, in my opinion, probably underutilised by the likes of parents and employers as well. Probably because they don't know it's there. But if we can promote that collectively through the likes of yourselves at schools, a lot of information on there will help them to understand. There's an FAQ section there as well. So that's one thing. I don't know, Scott, do you have anything else that might spring to mind?
No, and I know there's been campaign after campaign for that reason, that for some of the older generation, the apprenticeship tag is seen as a negative one. It's got a stigma about it that, oh no, my kid's too bright to do an apprenticeship, which the graduate apprenticeship, they're going to get a degree at the end, ultimately without the debt and be ahead of those. So it's a tough one. It's about, I think somebody mentioned about chipping away. The same with the foundation apprenticeship is at a higher level, but parents who think their kids are going to do a foundation apprenticeship, oh no, my kid's too bright, he'll be doing hires. So I think there's a bit of stigma. I think it just takes time. I think there's no coincidence that both graduate and FE numbers have increased every year as the word gets out, and as siblings do it, or as the year above get the benefits of doing FAs. I don't think, or very rarely do you ever hear a negative story about a young person experiencing it. They all enjoy doing it, and it gets passed down. And again, I suppose the same with the graduate. What we have to appreciate, if you look at the graduate apprenticeship, is they're 4 year long, and it's in its 4th year. So that what we've not got the advantages of all those people who have completed it, then talking about it. It is still reasonably new. So it will happen. And obviously this is one of the reasons why we've got these calls for careers advisors to be talking to pupils about it. And I think the more we talk about it, the more it will get there.
Thanks, Scott. That's a good point about it'd be great when we got the sort of first cohort starting to graduate, and then we can start to share some of those success stories.
And that's everyone relates better to examples, and it's a challenge we've got with the FA at the moment of making it virtual or creating projects. You ask an employer to do a virtual placement, and they can't quite picture it. But then as the first companies start doing it, you can then give examples, and it's easy from them because they then can picture it. And it'll be the same with graduate apprenticeships. And as you say, Dave, once you've got all these graduates who've then got their degrees without their debts and are years ahead and can give these experiences, it's then an easier sell. And then it can be a case of asking people to come out to speak to schools and speak to parents' nights and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Hi, Sarah, have you got a question?
Yeah, just excuse me, sorry, just on that note, I think it's great because you're right, they've not came to the end of the 4 years yet, but we don't get access to all the young people, obviously because of GDPR, and it'd be great to have something local because young people relate to local to local more than they do on the corporate stuff. And if you could find out who they were, we could actually target those people to go into their actual, maybe their previous schools, to actually do an overview, and even like parents as well, you know, do something to the parents, because as Paul and I are saying it, and Colin, there are a lot of benefits for doing this. And I'm a parent of 2 apprentices, and Colin probably thought that it would be better if his went down that route, but now it's too late. But I see the advantages of not having to pay for my kids to go to university, and they've both got like no degree level jobs. So something local would be really good for us, especially on the borders.
What we've done at Heriot-Watt is interacted with you know, these schools open nights or careers nights, and we've been to various. Obviously we're restricted, we can't do this now through other than through virtual means, but we are up for doing that. I've been to a few myself, so is my colleague Peter, and we do find that we talk to as many parents as we do anyone else at those kinds of things. I mean, there are other employers at those events who we find don't know about graduate apprenticeships as well. So we're trying to increase awareness on 2 fronts, I suppose, with parents and with employers. But certainly coming back to examples, and we're certainly building up a kind of portfolio of case studies now at Heriot-Watt. And with this being our first year of seeing people graduate through the programme, we're able to give real live evidence that it works and it's beneficial. In terms of the borders, and linking to what I've just said there, one of our first GAs to complete the programme works for a company down in the borders. You may have heard of them, ScotMass. And so I think they're a good employer for yourselves to engage with, whether they're able to you know, provide someone or find the time to attend at schools or careers fairs, if we ever get back to that, where they can actually talk themselves about being an employer who's benefited from it. And my understanding is ScotMass don't just have graduate apprenticeships, they also have modern apprentices, and they may be looking at foundation too, I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, we link in with Alistair Cameron at ScotMass.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks.
Yes. So he'd be a good person to support you with that.
Yeah.
Incidentally,
Okay.
I've just put into the chat here a PDF that you can share with students and parents based on the question I was asked earlier about something to share with them.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thanks, Derek.
Can I just add here that on the careers fairs that we've attended, only about 2 weeks ago, I did have an inquiry from somebody that had attended one of those careers fairs and wanted to pursue their desire now to do a graduate apprenticeship as opposed to university full-time. So the word is slowly getting out there. But I can also just add that if anybody has any specific people that want us to speak to, then I'm certain, I'm sure Derek will as well, and colleagues, more than happy to chat to any parents that want any further information on a one-to-one basis at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely, Peter. Thanks.
Okay, so we've got just a few minutes left. So if anybody else would just like to ask a question, well, there we go. So this is a question from Louise. What would you say to potential students who feel they would be missing out on a university experience by doing a GA?
Yeah, I mean, I can, well, go on, Peter, you go first.
Yeah, I'll just like to add on that, because that has been posed to myself on a few occasions. There is the lack of, I suppose, for want of a better word, camaraderie at the university. However, that is normally replaced by the camaraderie within the working environment. It's a different type of relationship building that will take place within the companies as opposed to university, but it's a different type of getting to know people and socializing, shall we say.
Yeah, I think the other thing I would say is just to support that, I suppose, is to say that they kind of get the best of both worlds. You know, they get the opportunity to mingle with the assuming people are on campus, they get that opportunity, but also as an employee, they get that work-based team spirit as well, and perhaps any works nights out. So students wouldn't get that. Can I just also pick up? Sorry, Peter, go on.
Yeah, I was just going to add as well that although they are working and doing the graduate apprenticeship program, they do qualify for all student benefits except for reduction in poll tax, council tax. That's showing me age a bit, sorry.
Yeah. I've heard they get Amazon Prime as well.
Yeah.
I don't know how that works.
Yeah, as I say, it's all normal student discounts, so they get the 20% discount on pizzas and everything else. So they do have those benefits, even though they're not full-time students.
I was just going to pick up there where there's a Mr. Fagan has asked for an email because he can't open the attachment. Do we have all the email addresses, David?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I was going to cover that off. So yes, what we'll do is, if it helps, we shall have in the next couple of days a recording of the session that we can send out, and we'll make sure that we enclose your attachment there as well. Derek, we've got everybody's email addresses that attended today, so not a problem. So, unless there's any final questions, we can wrap it up there. I'd just like to say thanks again, Derek. Thanks again, Scott, for your presentation today. I'm sure everybody found that super useful. And thanks again to everybody for taking the time out today at 4 o'clock to join us. It was really great to get input and also good to get some questions at the end. So as I say, we shall send out a recording of today's session along with Derek's attachment, which summarises the sort of GA content, and we'll get that sent round as soon as we can.